What's going on, guys? Art here with Working the Shoot. And I know it's been quite some time since I've uploaded on this particular channel, but with the end of the year coming and a major milestone in wrestling coming within the next few weeks, less than a month at this point, to be honest with you, I decided to take this time to talk about John Cena. Yeah, John Cena, man, it was an up and down um, thing with his character over the years. For a very long time, people either loved him or hated him. But what I want you to do, whether you hate John Cena, love John Cena, hate to love him, love to hate him, he wants you to hit that subscribe bar down below. He wants you to hit that like button down below. Let's do it for John Cena one last time, okay? Let's get into some of my thoughts and some of his milestones that we were able to witness over the years. Things that we didn't think we were ever going to see. Have feelings about this character, this person, that we may not have even expected to have. Okay? So let's get into it a little bit here. His initial WWE debut was a TV taping of SmackDown, which aired June 27th, 2002. So over 2 decades of John Cena. And man, did he come out of the gates smoking hot. It all started with one phrase: ruthless aggression. Kurt Angle was looking for someone that was on his level. And to be honest, once Kurt Angle's into Perk Angle, there's nobody on his level, baby. But I digress. He asked, does anyone in the back have what it takes to take me on, the Olympic gold hero? And out steps John Cena, a fresh-faced John, coming off of his time in OVW as the prototype. The prototype! I think I might pull the little John Cena right there. And he came out as John Cena, okay? And the Kurt Angle asked him, kid, what nerve are you to come out here and get in my face? What do you think you got that you have to take me on? And that's where the ride started. And his answer was ruthless aggression. Okay? Now, he was in wrestling for a couple years before his WWE debut, okay? He was part of this company called Ultimate Pro Wrestling in 1999, and then whenever from there to when he joined OVW is, his time on the independent scene, so to speak. And the class that he was in OVW had Batista, Orton, Cena. I mean, come on, stacked. I mean, I think there was a couple more. Brock Lesnar, I think, was in that graduating class, so to speak. And some of these wrestlers are still wrestling today, on and off, not as much and not with all the figure all the time as they probably once had. Humans can only do so much for so long before certain parts of the body break down, right? And so, like I said, the journey from then to now, to almost 24 years later, 23 and a half years later, he's retiring. Now, he just made his last appearance on Raw, November 17th. And he's only got one more appearance at the time of this recording, which is December 13th, 2025, at the next Saturday night main event. And there's currently an undeclared winner of the tournament that's going on to get the chance to have their last match with John Cena. And we don't know who it's going to be. There's certain predictions. Some think it might be Gunther. I would have liked to maybe have Orton or Edge or somebody. I would have liked to even see not Edge, The Miz have a little callback with John Cena. The Rock could have came back, especially with that. We'll get a little bit into that in a few. But so at the time we don't know who's facing John in his last match. Many believe, like I said, it's going to be Gunther, and then that's it. That's going to be probably one of the most watched wrestling events of the year, if not maybe the highest rated wrestling show of the year. I think it's going to be very highly viewed because, according to him, this is going to be really it. This is not. I'm leaving, and then in 5 years I'm going to come back for a one-time thing, and maybe we'll figure it out. He's done. He wants to act. He wants to concentrate on his acting career, and for the most part, his acting isn't too bad. He's been in some decent roles. His most infamous role or famous role at the moment, at the time of this recording, is Peacemaker. Season 2 wasn't too well received by the fans, but that's not his fault. He can only do what he's given via the script. But he did have some really emotionally impactful scenes in this season 2 of Peacemaker that makes me feel like I would have liked to maybe see a world where he could have been an action star younger in his career, but we're going to probably get some more. I mean, with how things are cut today in Hollywood with shows and stuff, he can probably still go a few more years action wise, but he doesn't have to probably carry all that muscle with him the way WWE superstars have to. Dave Bautista is a big example of that. He was huge, huge. But once he decided not to be wrestling anymore and lost that muscle mass, I mean, he's still in shape, but instead of being 325 pounds of, oh yeah, brother, he's more like 225 pounds, 250 pounds of just being fit, and that's probably the range where Cena's gonna go. Who knows? But only time will tell with that. I see him having a decent path in dramas, those type of things. Psychological thrillers maybe. It would really be interesting to see him as a true villain, because we'll get into that again even in a few minutes. Um, the highest he is a 17-time world champion. He beat Ric Flair's record this year. But the heel turn that came with it, teaming up with The Rock, teaming up with Travis Scott for some reason, going against Cody Rhodes, was unfortunately a big disaster, a big failure. Spot on his career that normally wouldn't have that big of a blight on it, but it does because it's so recent. He's even acknowledged himself when he went from being a heel to face again and kind of try to act like, oh gosh, I was acting so weird, right? Like, he was trying to make the best of it, considering, but yeah, it was a very big nothing burger. There was so much he could have did with that particular story, but he didn't. It was very generic, and I think that's why it was so disappointing. People waited years for him to turn heel. And yeah, it could have been like on the level of when Hulk Hogan turned heel. Okay? The kids loved him, families loved him. Advertisers loved him, and for him to go from the white meat baby face to that nuclear heat um, type of heel that he could have became, so to speak, was very disappointing. Um, yeah, so, but yeah, 17-time world champion, one time IC title that he just finally won against Dominic Mysterio, becoming a Grand Slam winner finally, a 5-time U.S. title holder, and 4-time tag team title holder. Some of his most notable feuds were against Edge, against CM Punk during the summer of Punk itself, versus The Rock. Once in a lifetime, happens twice. And Randy Orton. Randy Orton and John are pretty good friends from what I hear in reality. I think that's pretty cool. Most of them are friendly, unless, of course, things happen as they do. He holds the record for most Make-A-Wish wishes granted. And for me, that's pretty rad, bro. Good for you. He had some of the monikers he had were Doctor of Thugonomics, the prototype, and was very much tied to the phrase ruthless aggression. Now, at one point in time, we may not have had the John Cena that we have today if it wasn't for him being on a tour bus, being bored, and decided to battle rap those on the bus. And it was such a success that, and it wasn't like him trying to do something new. This was something he always did, okay? And Stephanie McMahon heard him and brought to his attention, would you consider like switching character up to this type of thing, becoming the Doctor of Thugonomics? Word life, this is basic Thugonomics. This man had an album come out, and it was fairly decent. Fairly decent, you know what I mean? With the mic in his hand, he's a bad man. Okay? If you know the album, you know that line. And I think that it shows the versatility of John Cena, the drive that he has to try new things, the ability to hang in there even though his back was against the wall, and even with his interaction with the fans, all right? At one point, he did admit that it bothered him when he heard, let's go Cena, Cena sucks. Let's go Cena, Cena sucks, right? It was bothersome to him that there's people out there booing him. But it was very much like Kurt Angle realizing that when people cheered, you suck, we are actually invested in your character. We're investing into your character. And yes, Superman Cena, Super Cena was annoying at the time. No one could beat him. And he kind of squashed some careers on the way, if we're being honest. It wasn't all peaches and cream on his end. Alex Riley, the match with Bray Wyatt, even though he made that up in the Firefly Funhouse match, he shouldn't have beat Bray Wyatt at that time. He should have let Alex Riley but he was afraid of losing his spot. You know, he's human and he makes mistakes. But in the overall grand scheme of things, despite his odd requests during dating, his strict rules and guidelines in his personal life and in his professional life, one thing has remained the same. He is about it, okay? And I wasn't always the biggest fan of his character, but I wound up respecting him over the years because, you know, the year that he beat Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, and then the next year him beating Triple H, Man, if I could have my brother, I had a friend, Doug, who unfortunately passed away a year ago. All three of us were going nuts. Like, what the hell? Oh my God, how can you let this guy win? And everything. Um, but, and then there's other times that he's let people win over him, like Sheamus, who was a relatively newcomer at the time. And even now, letting Dominic get some of his stuff in and stuff. Maybe 15 years ago, if Dominic was an active wrestler like he is today, but with the age, because he's still fairly young. I think Dominic's not even 30 yet. I don't know, but about that. So 15 years ago would have made him a teenager. However, I'm digressing. Um, John has learned some of the errors of his way professionally, and I think that him being his true self is yeah. So I wound up liking how John kind of switched his attitude around, had an attitude adjustment, so to speak, and approached the wrestling business a little bit differently, approached his opponents and the audience a little differently, and finally came together as a fully formed veteran, so to speak, a guy who um, realized that his legacy is always going to be there, no matter who's the hottest talent at the moment, and who's getting the rubs, who's getting the runs, who's getting title shots and stuff, because there's not much else John Cena needs to prove in his career at all. But that's my thoughts on John Cena and his career. I want you guys to let me know what you think about what his legacy means to wrestling and what his legacy will be in the future with newer fans coming in. Do you think anyone's going to be able to achieve the heights that he has? Many people didn't think many would achieve the heights that Hulk Hogan has had, or Don Morocco, or any of these other wrestlers in the past. But there have been wrestlers that have stepped up and taking the brass ring, so to speak. And that's what John did, and that's what he'll be known for, as someone who was very driven and motivated, and it gave him great success and riches in his life. So there's something to be learned there. But again, you guys let me know what you think about John Cena and his career. And until next time, peace.